All right, so picture this. You're walking down a busy street in China, starving. You want a burger. You look around expecting to see, like, the golden arches.
Right.
But instead, you see this massive, almost like imperial-looking restaurant, and it's called Tastian.
Okay.
And you walk in, and the slogan hits you. Made in China, a Chinese burger for a Chinese stomach. It's a very different feeling.
Yeah.
This isn't some, crazy alternate reality. This is a real thing happening right now. This is just a peek into this really interesting power shift that's happening in the global market. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. We've got this Wall Street Journal video, and it really breaks down how Chinese brands are challenging these huge American companies. And honestly, it's not just burgers.
No, it's not. It's a much bigger trend than just fast food.
Yeah.
Right? Like you said, American companies have, for a long time, seen China as this, like, gold mine, right?
Yeah.
1 billion consumers just like, chomping at the bit to get the next Big Mac or the next iPhone. And what this video is showing us is that's just not cutting it anymore. That whole strategy of just showing up with your Western brand name, it's not working the way it used to.
It's like, what they always say, what worked yesterday isn't going to work tomorrow.
Exactly.
Especially in a market that moves as quickly as China.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting because, thinking back, all those made in China labels we used to see on, like, everything, right? Clothes, electronics, everything. It used to be that companies would try to, almost hide that, right?
Right.
But Tasting is in, like, shouting it from the rooftops. They're proud of it.
Yeah, and that's what makes this so interesting, right? Because there's this huge surge of national pride happening in China right now, and brands like Tastian are tapping into that. And they're doing it really well. They're not just selling burgers, they're selling a sense of, cultural identity, a connection to something that's, like, distinctly Chinese.
It makes you think, would you ever be convinced to switch from a brand that you know really well, a brand that you're used to go with a local brand? Especially if it was playing on, like, your sense of shared heritage or values. Like, this whole thing just makes you realize how powerful just the perception of a brand can be.
Oh, absolutely. Brand perception is huge, and you can see this playing out especially strongly with younger generations in China, right? They seem much less interested in that, Western is best mentality that we've seen in the past. And it's not even necessarily about, like, rejecting foreign brands. It's more about, like, embracing what's their own.
And it's not just burgers and fries either. This video specifically points out the tech world as a prime example of what's going on.
Yeah.
We've all seen Apple's logo everywhere, but they haven't been immune to this change either.
It's true. And the video actually points out that Apple sales have been declining in China. While you have a company like Huawei, their Chinese counterpart, and they've seen a huge surge in popularity.
So it's more than just, like, waving the flag, right? You got to actually back it up with a product people want.
Yeah.
And it seems like Chinese brands are getting really good at figuring out what their local market actually wants.
Yeah. No, they're definitely onto something. They're innovating and adapting, like a lot of Western companies just haven't even thought about. And the video gives this example of Luckin Coffee.
Okay.
And it's, like, the perfect example of this, like, really agile way of approaching things.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of Luckin. They're the ones going head-to-head with Starbucks, right?
That's putting it lightly, honestly. They have, like, completely flipped the script on how a coffee house is supposed to work. Like, forget about the fancy locations and, that whole experience. They went straight for, like, fast growth, keeping prices low, and going all in on that whole digital ordering thing. Like, they saw a different part of the market, people who maybe wouldn't pay Starbucks prices, or people who just want to, grab their coffee and go.
So they were like, okay, Starbucks has their thing, but what about everybody else?
Exactly. And it's working for them. The video said their sales are through the roof while Starbucks is playing catch up.
Yeah.
It really shows you how important it is to know, like, the ins and outs of who you're selling to, and to be willing to change things up.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just tech and coffee either. This video also talks about, like, sportswear. What's up with that?
Well, there's this Chinese brand, Anta, and they are taking on Nike directly, especially with, like, the younger crowd. And one of the biggest things they've got going for them is how they're using that whole national pride thing we were talking about.
Hold on, are they just, like, slapping a Chinese flag on a shoe and calling it a day? Because I'm not so sure that's going to cut it.
No. It's way more clever than that. They're working in, like, traditional Chinese designs, cultural elements, and they do it in a way that actually feels authentic. So it really appeals to younger generations. They even did a collaboration with the Palace Museum, the one with all the, like, crazy important artifacts.
Oh, wow.
To come up with totally unique designs.
Now, that is smart. So they're not just selling workout clothes, they're selling a piece of Chinese culture. It makes you think about how much, like, our decisions about what we buy are influenced by stuff like that, even if we don't realize it.
For sure. And Anta's success just shows how important it is to really get what your customers care about, what they want to see in the world, especially in a market that's changing as fast as China.
Mm.
They've also been really smart about aligning themselves with Chinese athletes, like the Olympic team.
Yeah, that's a smart move for sure.
Right. The Olympics are huge over there. Everybody's super proud. And so for Anta to link themselves with these athletes, it's like they're saying, hey, we're on your side, which, like you said, really works with who they're trying to reach.
It makes you wonder, like, just thinking about the things you buy, do you think you do that too? Like, are you drawn to brands that sort of fit with your own, I don't know, background or the things you care about?
It really makes you think, huh. And this isn't just happening in China either. I mean, people all over are getting more picky about what they buy. They're more connected than ever. So brands everywhere need to be paying attention to this kind of thing. Actually, the video ends on a bit of a downer, at least for American companies.
Oh, really? What's it say?
Basically, it's saying American companies are getting hit twice as hard. First, they're losing their share of the market in China. And on top of that, they're missing out on the chance to really get a foothold in what's going to be the biggest market for, well, anything really.
Ouch. That's gonna hurt. It's like showing up late to a party where you don't even know the language.
That's a good way to put it. And it just shows how important it is for these companies to really get the culture, the little things, in the places where they're doing business. Just doing what worked back home isn't going to cut it anymore.
So what's it all mean then? Are we about to see Chinese brands, I don't know, take over the world? I'm kidding, sort of, but this is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it really makes you think. I think it's more like a wake-up call.
Mm-hmm.
For any company that's thinking big, global, the world's changing, people want different things, and the brands that figure that out the fastest, they're the ones that are going to make it. It's a really cool look at how much culture matters and how important it is to be able to change quickly in this global market.
Well, that was fascinating stuff. I never thought a burger could get us talking about like global economics and national pride and the future of brands in general. It's a lot to think about. What do you think? What does all this mean for brands going forward? Are we going to see other parts of the world do the same thing? It's something to keep in mind the next time you're shopping, that's for sure. Until next time.